Hello everybody, and welcome back to Great Woman History. Today I will be discussing Ching Shih. Last episode I started off with a disclaimer about how I would probably mispronounce one of the French names in the Madame de Pompadour video. In this video I will discuss multiple Chinese people and locations. I am an American who has never taken a Mandarin class, so please understand that my pronunciations are my best guesses based off of, listening to the Google Translate person. So don't judge me too harshly, and also don't use my pronunciations as a guideline when discussing this in the future. Okay, thank you. Ching Shih was born in 1775 in Guangzhou, China. Ching spent her early adulthood as a prostitute until she married a pirate by the name of Zhang Yi. The circumstances surrounding the marriage are up for debate. Some sources claim that Zhang Yi was mesmerized by Ching Shih's beauty. Other sources say that the marriage was a pragmatic one and that Ching Shih's skills as a prostitute would be useful. There are also sources that say that Zhang Yi had his men raid the brothel where Ching Shih worked and kidnapped her. However, there are also sources that say that Zhang Yi simply asked her to marry him and she accepted. Regardless, this marriage would change the trajectory of Ching Shih's life. Ching Shih was granted 50% control and share in Zhang Yi's company. You see, when I said Zhang Yi was a pirate, what I meant to say was that he was the commander of the Red Flag Fleet. Zhang Yi came from a long line of pirates, and at the time of his marriage to Ching Shih, the Red Flag Fleet had 200 ships. Ching Shih worked to grow the strength of the fleet. She adopted Zhang Yi's adopted son, Chang Pao, which helped consolidate the family's power, since now Chang Pao would be seen as Zhang Yi's heir. The fleet also grew in size to possibly as many as 1,800 ships. Then tragedy struck, or opportunity, depending on how you look at it. In 1807, Zhang Yi died in Vietnam. Ching Shih worked quickly. She began an intimate relationship with Chang Pao, who you will remember was not actually related to either herself or her husband, but was her late husband's heir. Yes, it's still a little weird. The couple also made sure that the rest of Zhang Yi's family supported her. Ching Shih was now the commander of the Red Flag Fleet. During Ching Shih's reign, she issued a strict code that those beneath her were to follow. Loot had to be presented before Ching Shih, and a large portion of it would be collected and redistributed to ensure that the less successful ships were still rewarded. Sailors who tried to withhold loot would be whipped and even killed. Ching Shih's code also protected female prisoners. Female prisoners would be released unless an unmarried pirate wished to take one as his wife. If a pirate married a prisoner, then he had to treat her respectfully. On the Red Flag Fleet, adultery and rape were punishable by death. Due to its size and power, the Red Flag Fleet was able to control villages along the coast from Macau to Canton. Ching Shih's fleet would battle the Chinese government in addition to the Portuguese and British fleets. She would defeat them all. At one point, the Chinese government had to fight her on fishing boats because she had captured all of their warships. Now seems like a good time to give some background on what was going on in China at the time. China was under the control of the Qing dynasty, which was the last of the imperial dynasties of China. The Qing would rule China from 1644 to 1912. China during Ching Shih's lifetime was prosperous, but was suffering from overpopulation and government corruption. British, Dutch, and Portuguese traders were sailing to and from China. The Qing government would restrict what goods the European powers could sell to China through the Canton system, a trade monopoly. Eventually, the British government's desire to open up free trade with China would lead to the Opium Wars. So what were the Opium Wars? Well, since this video is about Ching Shih and not about the Qing dynasty or the British East India Company, this summary is going to be brief. The British East India Company was trying to meet demand back home for Chinese goods. Since the Chinese did not really need or want anything the British had to offer, the British were giving the Chinese silver in exchange for these goods. The British responded by selling opium from their India territories to independent traders to sell to China. Opium was already illegal in China in many forms, however it was not yet outright banned. Many Chinese citizens became addicted to opium, and the silver that had been flowing into China was now flowing out. The Chinese government banned opium, and the British invaded. So in summary, the British East India Company were a bunch of greedy jerks. Now back to Ching Shih. Eventually, the Red Flag Fleet would suffer defeats, and Ching Shih could see the writing on the wall. Fortunately, the Qing imperial government was still terrified of her, and was offering amnesty to pirates who retired. In 1810, Ching Shih and Chang Pao took the deal. They would stop their pirating career, but could live safely in China and could keep all their riches. After retiring from piracy, Ching Shih and Ching Pao had their legal status of mother and son dissolved and were married. Remember, they're not related, but it's still creepy. It is. It's still really creepy. In 1822, Ching Pao died, and Ching Shih, along with her family, moved back to Guangzhou. There she opened a gambling house and brothel. She died at the age of either 68 or 69 in 1844. Ching Shih's tale is one of excitement and adventure, the rags to riches story of an opportunistic and determined woman. Ching Shih is still admired today, and fictionalized versions of her have appeared in books, comics, and the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And that concludes the third episode of Great Woman History. Come back next time to learn about Boudica. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe. If there is any particular woman that you would like for me to do an episode on, then please mention her in the comments below. Thank you.